groceries in Siberia that would shock Americans. Here you can buy canned bear meat for only $7, and vodka is sold in 3 and 5-liter bottles. Toothpaste and mouthwash are pine flavored, and it feels like you eat a Christmas tree. The most popular beer snack is a whole dried salted fish. This guy in the middle of the store is baking your bread on the walls of this oven. And if you need a drink ASAP, they always sell vodka to go in individual glasses for $1.
Yeah, so I don't really think that shocks anybody. Sorry, Siberia. It's 2026. This is the original comic reporter, and that is apparently a Russian influencer trying to sell us on the benefits of living in Russia by showing us the amazing impulse buys you can make at a typical Siberian grocery store. You had me on the bear meat and the fresh baked bread in that wild open air oven. That's pretty cool. But then I had to turtle a little bit when I saw individual sized vodka containers. What is that for? Is that so you can be drunk while carrying your groceries home, or are things so bad over there in the motherland that one cannot possibly survive the lifestyle while sober? Two of your major selling points. I will point out that two of your major selling points are alcohol and eating your best friends. Russia. You might want to work a little harder on making your country attractive to foreigners, or telling us that you have a lifestyle that's better than ours. I can't remember the last time I ate my dog. So anyways, yeah, I don't know who this influencer is, but I consider her a friend of the show. I can allow her in the inner circle. I mean, everyone who I feature on this channel is a friend of the show. Now, at first, I thought she was actually artificial intelligence. Then I realized no self-respecting AR artist would ever make an attractive woman's hands quite that wrinkly. She's clearly real, clearly attractive, and clearly trying to tell me that feeling like you're eating a Christmas tree is on the list of things that I'm missing out on because I'm not living the Russian lifestyle. But let me tell you something, comrade. We have pine trees here in Canada. We have Christmas trees here. They are mostly eaten by beavers, and let me tell you something about beaver breath. It's bad. No amount of you're not selling me on mouthwash by telling me I'll feel like I'm eating a Christmas tree. Beavers have horrible breath. It's a biological weapon. I don't think using mouthwash feels anything like eating a Christmas tree, and I hope to God it doesn't have the same effect. So yes, Canada has basically everything Russia can offer, plus more. You aren't selling us anything aside from the governmental body that tries to tell us that eating Christmas trees and getting drunk out of a yogurt container is somehow a perk of being a Russian citizen. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you democracy in its most enigmatic form. You know what this feels like? This feels like buying sushi at a gas station when there is a restaurant right next door. I mean, yes, it's cheap, and yes, you can eat it, but is it actually sushi? Is it? I mean, not everything that says democracy is actually good for you. You'd think Canada would have learned that by now, but for some reason, they are now attempting to sell us a lack of choice and money as beneficial to our happiness and personal growth. No, thank you. You're very attractive. I will not deny that. But also, I don't think that's enough. The last time I saw an informational video trying to sell me on the benefits of socialistically adjacent government, I was talking to a girl from Kazakhstan. She was actually one of the few people left in Kazakhstan who can actually speak the native language of Kazakh, which is quite the feat considering Kazakhstan has a population of 21 million people and only about 500,000 of them can even attempt to speak the language even remotely close to fluently. It was impressive. So that was pretty cool. A pretty cool and unique skill to have. But the other selling point she had is that she, like most of the country of Kazakh, eats horses. Yes, one of the traditional foods of the Kazakh people is horse meat. Of course, the reason it's like that is because the Kazakh people of days gone by were nomadic and they would drive horses the same way we drive cattle. Because the country is so big and the weather is so cold, it would often be easier to simply slaughter one of the older horses for food than to try to find any wildlife to hunt down to bring home for dinner, so you didn't starve to death. When I pointed out that the city of Almaty is now a thing, and the only thing nomadic about the Kazakh people now are the gypsies, she didn't appreciate my lack of appreciation for her traditional values. It did not go over well. Even questioning her tradition resulted in my complete and total dressing down. And you know what? I can respect that. I can respect that. I actually wish Canadians were more willing to berate the people who come here and try to tell us our traditions are wrong. I admire that about the Slavic people. I wish Canadians were more like that. I really do. Doesn't mean I'm going to accept the pitch. Sorry, Slavic influencers. Doesn't matter how pretty the girl on the screen is. It really doesn't. I don't live in your country. I don't want to live in your country. I respect your traditions and your dedication to them, but that doesn't mean I want to make them my own. And I think most Canadians who are being honest with themselves feel the exact same way. In fact, when you ask most Canadians what the biggest traditions in Canada are, you'll find that most of them revolve around sports: curling, ringette, hockey, and lacrosse. Two of them are largely forgotten, but yes, Canada loves games that are played using sticks and stones and ice, lots of ice. And that's because when trying to find things to do in sub-zero temperatures, when the only form of heating you have is a log cabin with a wood burning stove and what's left of your moose of the moose your wife just finished cleaning, you make do with what you have. Now, I understand that curling is Scottish, but then again, so were the earliest settlers of Canada, so that makes sense. They brought their traditions with them when they fled the state of decay Scotland was in when Canada was founded, and it makes sense that curling would become a way to pass the time, since all you really needed was a rock and a sheet of ice, two things Canada has in spades. But the biggest tradition Canada maintains throughout its history, all the way back to John A. Macdonald and Alexander Mackenzie, is that while Canadians endure hardship and put up with a lot, both from our government and from the very land we live on, we don't pretend that hardship is a perk. That is Canadian identity. We complain a lot. It's not that we hate our country. We don't. Well, I mean, some people do, but most of them aren't from here, and they are starting to discover that Canadians at large do not agree with their attempts to assimilate our culture into theirs. And they know that because when Canadians complain, they get loud about it. We complain about the weather, we complain about the government, we complain about our food, the prices, our jobs, the heat, the water, about business and success, and our neighbors constantly. But that doesn't mean we don't love it. Canadians have a tradition of complaining. Maybe it's the Scottish, Irish, British, and Christian cultures this country is founded on, but we complain because we love it. And we just want to see it do better before the chance to improve it is stolen entirely by those who misinterpret our hardship as hatred. So while you'll see a lot of stories about Canadians leaving Canada right now with the destination of the United States of America, I don't think anyone truly understands how much it took to get those people to uproot themselves and leave a country that they actually did love. They were mostly driven out by the hostility and lack of opportunity created by a 10-year stretch of complete and total nincompoopery by an elected official and his absolute dedication to using human rights as an excuse to do absolutely nothing of value, and then allow the internal mechanisms designed to create prosperity to rot under his complete and total lack of action. There is a myth that Canada is among the most accepting nations in the world. That is not true. It's not even remotely close. A lot of our elected officials push that, but it is a lie. What Canada is welcoming. It's not accepting. We're used to having mountains and mountains of people fighting to come here for opportunities and living wages and the chance to escape their own country's lack of concern for its citizens, but we are not used to having those people attempt to recreate the very thing they fled within their own communities. That that's new. In fact, the mass immigration out of Canada isn't even new. That's been happening since 2022. You just only know about it now because a few civilians realized that you could talk about leaving online and turn it into a brand. So while yes, you are being bombarded by accounts documenting their move to the US, the emigration itself isn't a 2026 phenomenon. It started before that. We've always had a brain drain out of Canada towards the US. It's a side effect of being one of the only two neighbors to the most powerful nation on earth. People tend to go where the money is. And for most Canadians, the most money is down south. The other thing you'll see in Canada is a manifestation of one of the deepest cores of Canadian tradition, our complete and total dedication to performative violence. We saw it at D-Day when a tiny group of Canadians demonstrated an improbable victory so absurdly unlikely that they completely broke the back of their enemies in World War II. You see it in our most popular sport, hockey, where fist fighting is not just an accepted part of the game, it is celebrated with a vigor and bloodlust one would never expect from a nation that made its name on being polite. We have streets named after one of the most performatively violent Canadians of all time, Lennox Lewis, the gold medal boxer and all around good man. Friend of the show. We aren't a violent people by any kind of uncivilized measurement, but we are celebratory of anything that allows us to express our physical nature in any way that proves our dominance to the world and others. And part of the problem in Canada right now is that we feel that dominance has been gutted. Because it has been. And we're not sure why. Canada is still one of the greatest places in the world to live, and all of the complaining and voices you hear online right now are simply doing what Canadians have always done. Complain until something is done about the problem. And it's louder now than it's ever been because one man, one Justin Trudeau, tried to take away the Canadian right to complain. He tried to single-handedly destroy the one tradition that has kept Canada healthy for 150 years. Now that man is gone. So now Canadians are making up for lost time. I actually feel kind of bad for Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre because I don't think I've ever seen Canadians threaten as much violence as they are right now. Not because it's the right thing to do, and I certainly don't agree with it, but because when you take away someone's ability to voice their frustrations, they don't get less frustrated. They become more likely to escalate into something far worse than complaining. And to my fellow Canadians, this kind of violence is not the way. Not yet. Hopefully not ever. We're not weak. We are far stronger than the world gave us credit for. Far more intelligent than world leaders wanted to believe. We're rather inconvenient to the European overlords you continue to complain about. Really, if you look at it that way, Canada is simply doing what Canada has always done, making sure it's getting everything it can out of a bad situation. It's putting peanut butter in a shit sandwich, whether you agree with Canada's politics or not. That complaining, that taking what you can out of what's left, that making the best of a bad situation, that is the real Canadian tradition. Good night.